So here is an example of the SMEAC Proforma that you will need to use when creating your SMEAC. It goes through on the left side here. It tells you what you need to write down. It tells you each criteria that you need to check off. As you can see, North Point, going, vegetation, you can read it yourself, but here in this situation is where you refer to your mum map using minimum 30 centimeter pointing stick. It can, obviously be longer than that, but you want it to be clear. You want to have a clear indication of what you're pointing to when you're talking about it. For boundaries, built-up areas, and no-go areas, these are more significant locations. They should include grid references. Grid references and anything that includes numbers, when you say numbers, need to be said twice. I'm sure you probably remember if you've ever, well, obviously you've had formal orders delivered to you, but if you can remember back to when they've been delivered, all grid references, frequencies, things like that, all numbers have been said twice. For current location, weather, moon, first, last light, that is very specific to the day that you're doing it, and you need to ensure you give the audience time to take in that information because it will be important to their operations. Non-friendly forces, friendly forces, attachments, detachments, civilians. It's pretty straightforward, like self-explanatory. The main important point is you need to outline non-friendly forces, friendly forces, and attachment, detachment, blah, blah, blah. Mainly the troops in the area and other forces present, just so that the people doing the mission are aware. Mission. As I said before, you must say the mission twice. Who will do what, where, and why. And there's a little example here. Next part is the execution. General outline. This usually, the execution is the expanding of the mission using slightly more casual language. This means that through the mission is the important point that everyone needs to write down word for word, but the execution is going into the specific details of the mission and the different moving parts of the process. So, company or commander's overall plan and intentions is obviously the overall plan for the group that will be conducting the mission. Grouping the tasks, as I said before, each grouping doing each task. So, for example, if one platoon was receiving this SMEAC, then the groupings and tasks will be grouped into different sections or different boat parties for Osprey X and the tasks of each of those sections. Up here, coordinating instructions. These are all mission-specific details. Timings of the groupings and tasks. The tasks that you'll be conducting. Method of movement, navigation, formations, locations, boundaries, stuff like that. Admin logistics. As I said, this is more like a logistical side, especially in a military context. You need to go over weapons, ammunition, stuff like that. In special equipment, in cadets, you need to refer to all this stuff as well. For weapons and ammunition, you can just say nil. If something doesn't apply to your mission, for example, weapons and ammunition, you can just say nil to show that you've covered that point. Inspections. This refers to kit inspections, like radio inspections, like day pack, what are they called? Day pack requisition checklist, stuff like that. Command and signals. Location of HQ and platoon command. This is important because on any map, as you probably remember, it's always distinguished where the command post and stuff is. And for radio, obviously down the side here you can see net call signs, time net open, frequencies. Remember, you have to say those numbers twice. Codes, authentication, radio equipment, radio checks. As you can see there, ensures communication is upheld during the activity for safety and organisation. That is just so everyone's on the same page, and if anyone is ever put in a position where they need to communicate to each other using radios or improvised communications, they're able to do that according to the guidelines of your formal orders. Here, improvised communications gives you examples, whistles. This isn't a very good copy because it's kind of blurry, but there will be another copy attached. Code words, nicknames, passwords, specifically to Raytel. For example, like you all know your Raytel code words like Sunray, Starlight, things like that. Seniority effectively is the chain of command over the radio. Synchronization watches, which you need to do so that everyone's on the same page, obviously. And questions. Make sure that you don't, at the start, you state that you will take questions at the end. You don't want anyone to interrupt your formal orders with questions because that can distract from your formal orders. Everyone is very important that everyone gets down these points as you say them. Make sure you give people time to ask their questions because once you've given them all this information, it might take them time to flip through some notes, think of the questions they had previously when they did get a chance to ask them, and then give them time to ask the questions. Questions from platoon first. Make sure everyone has make sure anyone makes any clarifications they need to make, and then you can ask questions to the platoon to make sure they've retained that information.